Welcome to the Sunnyside Studio podcast, where we intend to promote Maldives as the leading global destination with innovative, speakers. Where we have the industry specialists, where they share their experiences in the tourism sector. We want to make sure that it is as authentic as much as possible by making sure that they share their stories, their strategies, telling us what their thoughts are and how they see the future of tourism here in the Maldives. So therefore, I thought there is one person whom we need to definitely have on our podcast, where I think words cannot really describe his effort and his commitment towards the industry. He has already served the industry for more than a decade. He's not new to this industry, and we've seen him delivering powerful speeches, inspiring people, motivating people in the sector, making sure that the voices are heard, making sure that we are in the process of making a change in the sector itself. None other than Mr. Afeef Hussain. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Afeef.
Thank you, Sean, and I'm really looking forward to have a great conversation today. And I think it's a great podcast, and I'm looking forward to share some great thoughts and insight.
Why don't you tell us about how you got into the industry and how you managed to come this far?
Yeah, I think even from the very early stage of my life, when I was in school and secondary education, higher secondary education, I always had this idea of serving people. When I do something for them, and when they feel good, and when they tell me, if thanks for helping me, I thought that's when I developed the mindset of service. And I always wanted to be in service of other people, whether it was in the school or whether it was in the high school, college, university. And I remember when in my first job, obviously, sort of first hotel industry job was based in then Banus Mahal office as administrator to look after the affairs of Four Seasons, Kodahora, Coco Island, Banus. Then it used to be managed by the HPL, and it used to be the Mahal office. And I remember, a lot of employees would come to me for various stuff, and if I could do it for them. And those days you don't really have the WhatsApp or these technologies like now, where you could send a message, get the job done.
Right.
I realized that's where it all started, and I don't think I ever looked back then from that time.
So from then onwards, it was always going up. Yeah. Well, I think that's excellent. I mean, but then again, in the past 15 years, there would be certain stories that you would go on telling every now and then whenever you're on the stage openly. I mean that. This is some memorable thing that I actually came across. I mean, why don't you share something like that with
I think I took a lot of obviously working in the hotel industry, hospital industry is, though it's based in the Maldives, this is a global industry, so it's open for everyone to go and work elsewhere. One of the, I think the turning point was when I worked in Dubai, where I had the opportunity to open Atlantis Dubai, which is 3,500 employees, 1,500 rooms, $1.5 billion project. I was the only Maldivian who worked in there, and I was in the learning and development. I think that changed a lot of the things and my perspective. For example, we work with employees from over 100 different countries, and flying for the recruitment trips and training all of them. And I think that kind of changed the way how I saw the industry and the growth. And this was also the time when Dubai was really having their the mega scale projects. And I recall reading in a paper that between 2008 and 2009, 24% of cranes in the world were actually based in Dubai for construction. So just imagine the scale and the magnitude of that, right? And I learned a lot of things from there. And that's when I realized that there's a lot more we could do in the Maldives. And so I brought a lot of lessons back, and the journey keeps on continuing. So there are a couple of moments like that, but I think this is one of the highlights that I still share to people.
Right, excellent. I mean, wow, I mean, the only Maldivian back then, handling 3,500, employees and all that. I think that's definitely a story for the books as well. I'm just thinking, when we talk about Maldives as the leading destination or trying to, achieve that particular target, I mean, every single Maldivian within themselves feels like actually, we owe it to the country. We owe it to the nation. I mean, I think there is a very important question in this: why or how Maldives has become this global iconic
Yeah.
destination. I mean, I think this is something which most of our viewers would want to know how we managed to come to that.
Yeah.
I mean, in your
Yeah.
perspective, what do you think made us that iconic?
Yeah, I think
destination?
from the very beginning, I'll just highlight three things. Number one was the peaceful environment that the Maldives was able to offer to the traveler, because people come from different parts of the world. They have a hectic life, so when they arrive to airport and they go to different resorts, whatever the mode of transport you use, you arrive to the place. It's really like is the paradise. So it's very calm. So I think. And also, it plays a big role in the national harmony. I think as a country, though we had our good times and bad times, but generally as a nation, we're very peaceful. So I think that played a very important role.
Yep.
And the second thing was from the very early stage of the tourism industry, even from 1972 onwards and all the way down up until now. I think our even the pioneers of the industry and even the current owners and operators, I think we focus a lot on the experience of the traveler. So it's not like the room itself, it's not only the diving or the snorkeling or the activity. It's just the overall experience. And people come here, and when they leave, they feel like, wow, this is something not that I expected, but a little bit more. And I think the third one is our innovation. We have been innovating in very different aspects. So Maldives is not just only for the diving experience or even the culture. I think there's a lot more. So if you're coming here to have really an active holiday, you got that too. If you're here for quite a holiday, you got that too. So I think it's the multi-dimensional activities that we have offered. And the third one, I think there's no destination that as exotic as Maldives that has been able to innovate themselves every now and then, provide new products, ways of services. I think that kind of kept the Maldives at the very best. And if we keep on doing that for years, I think we will still continue to be the very best in the world.
Right. I think that's really where we're actually looking at. It's a holistic, level of service. Like you said, those who want to have a quiet environment, you have that. Those who want to, be in the city life and then still enjoy their holiday mood, you have that. I think that itself represents what Maldives stands for. I think for the last consecutive 5 or 6 years, we have been in the top. Why do you think? What are the strengths which we have been actually, there in the top level?
Yeah, I think the biggest strength is our people as a nation, the people who work in the industry. Of course, in the very early stage, we had a lot of more Maldivians, and now we have a mix of different nationalities, and which is perfectly fine because this industry itself is actually a global industry. Though it happened to be in the Maldives, it is, it's a global industry. So it's good to have a mix of different nationalities and Maldivians. I think the people, and in the sense that I've traveled to over 50 more countries around the world, and in every continent, and had the opportunity to speak in these audiences and staying in some great hotels. I realized that every time I come back, I realize that Maldives still provides the best service, the genuine smile of people from the airport, like you mentioned, all the way up until the departure experience, right? So I think that part is the biggest thing where investors would like to invest in, and I know that is one of the hot topic within investment boards when the Maldives provide great service. So we should go there and we should invest in upon, right? Then I think the number 2 element is again linking with the idea of innovation. Over the years, the Maldives has been able to bring. If you look any great brand in the world, we are here, right? One of the great brands that I had the opportunity to walk and see from inside out was the one and only Ritira. That was a hotel. That was then in 2005 we opened. That was a hotel where they redefined the entire luxury industry of the Maldives. And then you had all these big brand stars come in. And in 2019, when you look into the industry, we had a record number of resorts that opened. I think closer to 22 new resorts opened from 1st of February, then Lux North Male, and then non-stop, right? But when you look into that, every resort was different. We had small resorts, small boutique hotels, the integrated resort of Crossroad opened then, and then you had big hotels, and the list goes on, right?
I think more integrations are coming in, and when you talk about innovation, I think there was a time when there were no ACs in the rooms.
Yes.
And now you can control everything from your, iPad. It's all electronic, it's all automated. So I think innovation has played a huge role in it as well. So just thinking, right now the stakes are quite high. I think recently we came to know that Formula City has been already premiered in Netflix.
Just today.
As a shark destination as well. This is wonderful news. As a destination, I think a lot of people would know that actually we have that beauty there. So the stakes are high now, so we need to promote furthermore. So you need to do a lot of these things. So I just want to know, what are the opportunities
Yeah.
there for further improvement in terms
Yeah.
of going to that level, in terms of innovation, the wellness tourism, like the sustainability component. If you look at how you're going to mix the local community integrating into the
Yeah.
tourism sector, what do you think? Where do we need to improve further?
Yes, when you look into the future, I think right you mentioned there's a lot of challenges, but the challenges will only exist if we don't innovate and if we don't reinvent ourselves.
True.
I think Maldives tourism industry is at a place where we are very good in what we are doing, but to get to the next level, we need to looking at how we can diversify our product and the services itself. I think the hospitality, because in future it's going to be the entire hospitality industry. I believe opening of the airport is going to help us in a lot of new ways of new airlines coming in, new opportunities. But the other important element is, the now and the future for the next 5-10 years or even beyond. The future traveler is looking for the experience that they have in terms of whether it could be experiencing, for example, the local culture, or it could be experiencing the resort itself from a wellness standpoint of view, or whatever the element we provide. What is the experience that they are getting? And the experience is not just the product itself. I think we have great products, but we have not been able to reproduce ourselves in the sense that we need to create that experience whereby what is the traveler looking for example. Let's say there are a lot of people who are traveling now, as let's say, for example, they've done their maybe they have a full-time job back in their country, and they could be, let's say, a football expert or somebody who teaches football. And, they would want to come to a resort, but they may want to teach it to the local community. So how the resort plays a role to engage them with, it happens in the Maldives, but I think we have a lot of opportunities here to look at their experience. And I think the second important thing is we also need to look at what are the new trends around there in the world in terms, and we have to reach out. I mean, there's a lot of new markets that we could explore, because the future traveler looks very strong, and I have no doubt that. I mean, the good thing about Maldives is that everywhere in the world, right, Maldives is still known as a destination that is luxury, that provides top service, that keeps on transforming and innovating, right? I mean, there are different brands I could give example, but I think the general thing is that we need to keep reinventing ourselves, right? We cannot just stay still and say, we are the best destination in the world,
true.
but we have to keep reinventing ourselves and focus on looking at what we can control. What we can control is the experience, the innovation that we need to bring, and most importantly, I want to highlight investing in our people.
Yeah, true.
And that is, I think, an important point where we need to invest in our people, because then the people gets better, they will deliver a great experience. There's no doubt.
True. I mean, just listening to you, so passionately talking about, what we need to stay focused on. Like you said, we don't need to stay stagnant. We know that the world is constantly changing. There are generational gaps, so the people want more. They want to see, different things. They want to experience different things. But what Maldives has to offer needs to change based on their demands as well. I'm just thinking, back in 1979, and this is 2025 now. So some of the veterans are still there, who's holding on to the roots, making sure that they are also, contributing a lot into the industry.
Yes.
And then there are the newcomers. I mean, recently we saw the Hotelier Awards, where we saw a lot of youngsters, grabbing those awards. We can name a lot of people, but then again, what I'm trying to say is, what do you think? How do you think the veterans and the new youth can collaborate together to come together to make sure that the industry is actually going into a better direction? What do you think about that?
I have a lot of respect for all the pioneers, and some of them I've personally met and had engagements like this, and some of the lessons I have learned from them over the years, of course, in my speaking area, and I think it's great. And they are contributing a lot. I believe they are also now have started, especially some key pioneers in this industry have started handing over the business to their, the next generation. So, which is great. I believe there's a lot we can learn. So they need to keep encouraging and inspiring the young hoteliers, because the market that we see now in terms of the talent, the young hoteliers or the young Maldivians, for example, those who can be employed in resorts are not very keen to get into the industry.
Right.
The fact that it is hard, it is tough, but they can encourage and mentor and guide, which I know they are doing. I suppose we could do more, and we could also have programs like these where they could speak and inspire the audience. And I think there's a lot more we need to do. And it's not, I think, only their job. We as the the let's say the millennial generations
Yeah.
needs to connect, and we need to bring the Gen Z generations,
Yes.
because we can only do this together.
Yeah, you're not yet a veteran, so I mean,
Not
I
yet,
should
not
have
yet.
anyways, I mean, I'm just thinking about that. When you talk about handing over the industry to the new generation, you're seeing some of the major brands in tourism sector here in the Maldives has started to slowly change
Yes.
hands from within the family as well. So I'm just thinking, as a young Maldivian, as
Yeah.
a youth, when looking into the concept of tourism or the industry as a whole, what do you think us as youth need to really focus on?
When you look at into the let's say the hospitality industry, resorts and hotels, and I think in the Maldives the whole ecosystem is a lots of opportunities, right? But it does require a lot of effort and time and hard work, because after all, what does the traveler cares? The traveler cares about the effort that you put in providing the service and how we make them feel. So education, or formal education, while it's important, is just not enough. So you have to get into a job, and my advice is always start somewhere. Don't wait. Don't wait for a higher level. I started as I've done waiters job. I've done housekeeping. I mean, I've done those jobs along the way, and that's what makes me appreciate the colleagues who work in that. So start somewhere, and then you gotta keep going.
Yeah, I mean, Afeef has been actually a good friend of mine as well. I mean, for the past
Yes,
years,
yeah.
we've been actually meeting in different audiences. Just thinking, there's a mindset that Afeef has. I mean, he tries to actually resonate that into all of these youths who go to his talk shows and all these things. There's one thing. If there's one message that you want to fixate in the youth mentality,
Yeah.
what would that be?
Yeah, it's just very simple. Two things. Number one, time is the most important resource we have. So don't wait time for looking for the perfect opportunity. Take a job, do something, and get going.
Right.
And that's the number one. And number two is that there's lots of opportunities. It all depends on how you see it. I hear a lot of people say that there's no opportunity. There are, but my message is that there are opportunities available. It all depends on how you see it, and just take one and start somewhere. You would never know where you would end up in the next 5 or 10 years down the line, because where you start is probably the first piece of that puzzle of your dream job. And I would never thought that I would be speaking in audiences like this, but I started somewhere, and that's, I think, helped me to build up that and all the way to where I am today. I'm still working in progress.
Of course. That's very inspirational itself, Afeef. I mean, I believe those who are actually watching the podcast itself also would actually feel the same thing. I mean, we need to start somewhere. We can't just keep on wasting our time trying to say that, okay, we got this opportunity, we failed to look at it, and then, eventually it just went out of the window. I mean, Maldives has a lot of opportunities, right? I mean, what do you think, in your perspective, how the tourism sector has changed with the introduction of guest houses and local tourism and the tourism itself, the industries where the resorts have come in? Now I think there are chains of resorts coming in within one whole group of companies. So how has the tourism sector actually changed and evolved during this time?
I believe one of the main thing that I've seen around is that the entire ecosystem of the tourism industry has helped the local communities, right? Whether it is the homestays, or whether it is the guest house business, or whether it's hotels and resorts, and of course extended city hotels around, whether it's in the Greater Malay or elsewhere. So I think it has helped everyone. And what this has done is also has provided lots of opportunities. For example, I remember many colleagues that used to work in resorts prior to pandemic. Now some of them have guest houses, some of them have walking guest houses, and they don't want to go back to resorts, which is perfectly fine, because everyone is benefiting. So Maldives has benefited a lot. I think the important question we need to discuss and deliberate is that we need to do business in a sustainable way, which means in a way that we can maintain the employment, that we can continue what we are doing, and all those different elements. So that needs, again, a little bit of rethinking, a little bit of innovation, reinventing, investing in people, and making sure that we don't just do what we did 5 years ago. But
Right.
the world is changing, and it's changing very fast.
Yeah, true,
So I think that mindset needs to be within everyone. We are doing well, but we can do a lot more.
Yeah,
and
true.
to do that, we need to have a strategy in all these different areas. The government interagencies, the government, the collaborators, everyone needs to play a role. I mean, I need to play a role too, to make sure I guide people and all those different things.
So when you mentioned about the government, I mean, recently, I mean, we've seen that the introduction of new 30 resorts opportunities to come up with new 30 resorts. I mean, this industry is growing very fast, and the government is aiding into a lot of areas where this possibility can happen. I think this year the target is set to 2.3 million of guests visiting into the Maldives. We've already bypassed 1 million mark. Congratulations, I mean, to you being in the industrialist as well within the sector itself. Just as a whole, what do you think is the hope that you have for this sector in the Maldives in the future? What do you think we are actually? I think it's an end of an era which we have passed into. I think now going into something new. What are your hopes for the tourism sector?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say that the congratulations message goes to all the employees working in the industry. It's a job of everyone. Everyone who plays a role. I mean, as simple as the one who works in the airport down to travel agencies, airlines, everyone, right? So I think everyone deserves that credit, and obviously there are people who lead that behind. But in the future looks bright, as I said. That depends on how we see it. It is going to be very challenging, but if we reproduce ourselves, reinvent ourselves, and put a plan and a strategy, we will be successful, right? I believe the government has their plans, but my message is, I think this industry is successful because of all the stakeholders, and the government is a stakeholder, investors are stakeholders, the owners, the operators, employees are stakeholders. So we can't, the future success will not be achieved just by one stakeholder doing their part. We all need to together, and we need to also make sure that the Maldives is a more investor-friendly organization based on the dialogues that we have, the conversations that we have. Everyone needs to play a role in that. It's not only the government, everyone. I also need to play a role, making sure that I share the right message, the right positivity around. I think that's where the future investor will be. I mean, there's a lot of great taste out there that people wants to come and invest, right? But there's also the question whether it is sustainable or it is not, and can we keep on reproducing what we used to do before, and do we need to invest more in people? There's a lot of questions investors are asking. True. But we can do that, and we need to start putting. I mean, there's of course the tourism master plan is there, but there's also government mandates and everything. This all needs to come aligned, and we all need to work together.
Right. I mean, just sitting here, I think the podcast only allows me so much. If I'm sitting here talking with Mr. Afeef, he can go on for hours. I mean, really talking about, I mean, this is a very limited amount of time, and I really appreciate the fact that you took some time off to come here, sit there and, just share some of your experiences and what you want to see in the future for this industry itself. Just as a one final message before we just wind up the podcast to our, the young generation who's coming up, to the industry specialists, or to the industry, stakeholders and everyone alike. What is that one message you would like to deliver in the podcast itself?
Yeah, my message is that this is the best job in the world. And why is the best job in the world? Because people are coming, and you're the only choice that they have to create that amazing memories for them. They're not just coming to buy a product, right? It's not like going to a shop where you have different brands of things. True. You come into a place and you are creating moments and memories that they will remember forever. And this is the best job in the world. And to do that, there's lots of opportunities out there. It all depends on how you see it. Take a job, do it, and that starts your dream job for the future.
Very inspirational. Thank you so much, Mr. Afeef.
Thank you, Shah.
I mean, this podcast is, we're winding up this podcast for now, but I'm sure that there is a lot to come. I mean, for the future, we have more, industry specialists who will be talking here, right here with us, sharing their experiences, their thoughts, and, telling us what actually the industry would be, let's say from 5 years from now, or maybe even more, and what changes we are expected to see. So I hope that you guys actually got a lot of info with regards to, how we had been back in 1979, and then, coming up to 2025, and what we are looking for in the future, and some of the most inspirational quotes by Mr. Afeef as well. And I hope that you guys enjoyed the podcast. For now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much.